Is it just us, or does every single patch feel like a rework for Shadow Priest? Blizzard really can't seem to decide what to do with the class. Is it supposed to be an immortal caster, all instant casts, a little of both? Either way, Shadow Priest gets another rework in Midnight. While a lot of core abilities were removed, some really strong additions were added too. In this video, we'll guide you through what to expect in the next expansion, ranking each major change from a thumbs up to a thumbs down. Now, we don't know for sure when Midnight will launch, but for sure it will be at the start of next year. That means we still have at least 3 more months of the War Within, which is plenty of time to hit your goals this season. And while you're waiting for Midnight, we recently updated all of our class courses for Season 3, giving you everything you'll need to rank up fast, including videos on how to perfect your rotation or how to get the perfect opener. We cover everything you need to play just like a gladiator in PvP. We even take concepts like positioning and break them down into step-by-step guides. It's like questing, but instead of experience, you gain rating. We even offer a 14-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee for those of you who just want to try us out. So after this video, be sure to click the link below for an exclusive discount to get started. For now, back to the video. First up, let's take a look at the upcoming class changes. There were some pretty significant class changes. The biggest and arguably most impactful change is the loss of Void Shift. Yes, you heard that right, Shadow Priest no longer has the iconic life swap ability. This is a massive hit to survivability, not just for the Shadow Priest, but for their entire team. Halo has been removed from the Shadow Priest class tree and is now exclusive to the Archon hero tree. Void Weaver did use Halo for some extra damage, but this doesn't feel like a huge loss. Much of Halo's value is baked into Archon, so its removal has very little impact on Shadow Priest as a whole. Vampiric Embrace has been removed from the talent tree, but don't worry, Blizzard actually made it baseline. This frees up a talent point for some of the new additions to the Shadow Priest class tree. Several other talents like Apathy, Divine Star, and Power Word Life were also removed, though these are relatively minor losses. Most of the new additions are passive stat and damage boosts, which are always welcome, but there are also a couple of interesting new talents as well. Spectral Illusion makes your Fade create a copy of yourself. This can potentially trick pets or even other players, giving you a moment to slip away. Psychic Scream is now part of the talent tree, which feels like an odd design choice since it was baseline before. It now has a 40-second cooldown, but don't get too excited if you were hoping for a 25-second fear. Psychic Voice now only reduces the cooldown by 10 seconds instead of 15. Overall, it's a weird change, but fairly neutral in impact. Desperate Prayer has been added to the class talent tree as well. Given its value and how often Shadow Priests get targeted, it's hard to imagine not taking it most of the time, which makes this feel like a poor design choice. It effectively forces you to give up a talent point to something that should probably have stayed baseline. Void Tendrils received an interesting rework. Instead of rooting on demand, it now triggers after Psychic Scream ends. Defensively, this reduces its effectiveness since you can't just root whenever you need to kite or get away from melee. Offensively though, it opens up opportunities to root healers out of line of sight, which could help set up some amazing plays. Everyone has been complaining that fears don't break. To help with this, Blizzard nerfed Sheer Terror from 75% to 25%. This is a significant change, and we may start seeing dots consistently breaking fear again. The class changes aren't terrible, but they aren't great either. Losing Void Shift is a massive change, and it will be interesting to see where Shadow Priest lands without this core defensive. We're giving it a middle thumb since most changes are neutral or slight buffs, but there are enough small issues that can't be ignored. Now though, let's take a look at the biggest changes to the spec tree. This is where Shadow Priest saw some of the most substantial changes. The goal of this rework is clear. Blizzard wants to streamline the spec, reducing how bloated and complex the burst sequence had become. And they did this by removing Dark Ascension entirely and turning Void Eruption back into Void form. The updated Void form feels like a hybrid of the two. In practice, this shouldn't dramatically alter your gameplay, and it should actually help your burst since you get increased spell damage for all abilities, not just single target hits like Dark Ascension. A couple of other talents were removed from the spec tree as well, including Void Torrent and Psychic Horror. Losing Psychic Horror is a big deal. Shadow's stun has always been a key part of setting up fears and creating any real kill pressure. Without it, landing clean crowd control becomes significantly harder, especially against coordinated teams. To compensate, they made Silence baseline, giving Shadow a talent point back. Silence being baseline is definitely a win, but as strong as Silence is, it rarely replaces the utility and control a stun provides. Relying on Silence alone will likely make the class feel noticeably weaker. Some talents were changed as well. Void Volley is now tied directly to Void form instead of functioning as its own separate talent, and in the process, Shadow lost Void Bolt entirely. While Void Volley still has a cooldown and provides some great burst value, it definitely shouldn't have replaced Void Bolt. Void Bolt's value wasn't just the damage, it was the amazing insanity generation on a very short cooldown, and more importantly, the automatic dot extension. It's a change that streamlines the burst, but at the cost of class identity. The longtime favorite Devouring Plague has been reworked into Shadow Word Madness, and honestly, it feels like a downgrade. The dot component is still there, but all the self-healing is gone. We get the intention. Shadow Priest has been a little tanky, but the healing from Devouring Plague wasn't the problem, and removing it just feels like a loss of both flavor and functionality. Shadow Crash has been reworked into Tentacle Slam. Functionally, it works almost the same as Shadow Crash. It hits a target and applies your dots. The main difference is that it now has a slightly larger AoE component, as anyone hit by the tentacle will now get dotted. Plus, a giant tentacle slams down on the target. It definitely looks pretty cool. Surge of Insanity has been reworked significantly. Instead of turning Mind Flay into Mind Flay Insanity every 2 Devouring Plagues, it now simply buffs Mind Flay damage. This streamlines the rotation by reducing the number of procs you need to track. The changes feel like a worse version of the current Shadow Priest playstyle at best. They simplified the class at the cost of core utility and class identity. And of course, losing our stun is a major drawback that we just cannot overlook. We're giving the Shadow Priest class changes a thumbs down. Now, in case you've been out of the loop, Midnight also introduces some brand new Apex talents. These are meant to be power-ups specifically tailored for each spec, centering on one core mechanic. All of our Apex talents are named Void Apparitions. The first Void Apparitions talent is fairly straightforward. It procs a shadowy apparition whenever an idle effect triggers. It's not particularly exciting, but it does provide a solid damage boost. Our second Void Apparitions talent gives you a chance to summon an empowered apparition that casts Void Bolt on your target. But don't get too excited, it's just an extra hit. It doesn't extend your dots like the old version. Our final Apex talent makes Tentacle Slam trigger one of your idols. Now, you might be wondering how that ties into shadowy apparitions. If you remember our first Apex talent, triggering an idol procs a shadowy apparition, which can then turn into a void apparition. Everything flows together pretty naturally, even if the talents are mostly passive. The Apex talents get a solid thumbs up from us. Everything flows together naturally, and they actually reward you for playing correctly. The idea is to make shadowy apparitions feel more impactful without overcomplicating your rotation. Now though, let's take a look at the brand new hero talents coming in Midnight. Both Archon and Void Weaver have seen plenty of use, but we're starting with the fan favorite, Void Weaver. Before we dive into the new talents, it's worth noting that Void Torrent now sits as the keystone talent of the tree. It's no longer part of the main spec tree, but the hero tree itself still plays pretty much the exact same as before. Void Heart is the first new addition, giving a solid 10% damage boost while your Rift is active. It will definitely make your burst feel more impactful. This is a welcome change given that Dark Ascension is gone. Keeping up the trend of passive damage boosts, Touch of the Void now grants Void Heart for 8 seconds after your Rift. If you've ever had that tragic moment where a target is just barely surviving your go, this talent is there to make sure you finish the job. Rounding out the tree is Overwhelming Shadows. This talent simply increases the damage of Void Torrent. The new talents are solid. Your burst windows are going to feel great, but honestly, these talents are all a bit on the boring side. It's just more raw damage that you probably won't notice. Archon got the same treatment as Void Weaver, with Halo now acting as the keystone talent of the tree. Where things get interesting is in the new talents. Focused Outburst boosts the damage of Void Volley while also reducing its cooldown. This gives you more chances to line up big burst windows during Void form. The second new talent is actually on a choice node, and both options definitely have potential. Words of Supremacy buffs Power Word Fortitude to grant an extra 5% stamina. This is great for general survivability. Heightened Alteration, on the other hand, extends Dispersion by 2 seconds, which can be clutch in CC-heavy comps. Most of the time, Words of Supremacy will probably be the go-to, but Heightened Alteration has situational value when you really need that extra breathing room. And surprisingly, the final talent is another choice node. Realized Potential increases the damage of death and shortens its cooldown. This definitely feels like the weaker option. Spirit Well, on the other hand, passively boosts your shadowy apparition damage and stacks nicely with our Apex talents. This synergy will likely make it the stronger choice for overall DPS. The new hero talents for Archon and Void Weaver are solid additions. Archon got a bit more love in its design. The good news is that while the new Void Weaver talents are maybe a bit boring, they are still very strong. Overall, these hero talents earn a thumbs up. But we're not done yet, because let's wrap things up with some PvP talent changes. In the PvP talent department, things are mostly unchanged, but there are a couple of notable changes. The biggest thing you will notice is that Thought Steal is gone. No more terrorizing Restoration Druids, but for most matches, you probably won't even notice it's missing. The other change is the addition of Psychic Shroud, and this one has some real potential. When you fear a target, you gain the equivalent of Nullifying Shroud for 15 seconds. This can make aggressive plays feel a lot safer, since you're not instantly locked down, and it also has solid defensive value against follow-up crowd control, especially into CC-heavy comps like Rogue Mage. Overall, these changes feel like a net positive. Losing Thought Steal stings a bit in certain matchups, but Psychic Shroud adds a ton of outplay potential. Shadow Priest already has a strong toolkit, and this just gives it more options. But what is our overall impression of Shadow Priest in Midnight? Shadow Priest did pick up some nice talents, but no matter what they added, losing our biggest team defensive and our stun is a huge hit. It's tough to say exactly where Shadow Priest will land in the meta, but unless the damage output skyrockets, we expect it to be a bit weaker overall. And did you know every expansion we help thousands of healers just like you hit their rating goals? Like Gizmo here, a Resto Druid hard stuck at Rival with over 5,000 games played, who just gained over 600 rating in a few weeks just by using skill capped. Our damage and healing courses save you weeks or even months of your time, condensing down everything you need to know into bite-sized videos. You don't have to be scared to sign up because we have a rank up guarantee that promises you will gain at least 400 rating while using our service. So if you're serious about climbing, visit the discount link below to get started. Anyway guys, we want to thank y'all for watching. See you soon.